This woman writes, when is it okay to tell someone they got themselves where they are in life? More often than not, it's none of your business, and you probably shouldn't try to intrude in something like that. Always safe to learn from your enemies, seldom safe to learn from or to instruct your friends. When you try to be an instructor or tell friends how to basically live their life, what you'll find is they often become your enemies. So it's like it's really none of your business to kind of get into their life. And one, it's like you probably, and more often than not, people try to basically correct people and they don't know how to do it themselves. They're just basically trying to fix this other person or tell them what's going on based on their own perception. And what they don't realize is their own perception is often wrong, especially if they haven't put in the work to study things. And they're basically just saying, well, my reference is like basically what my parents taught me or what I've seen on TV or whatever they said, or my past successes that I've learned that might not even be true, but I'm trying to basically convey that on you. And what it also does is just creates resentment towards the other person. So it just makes the other person combative, or they're going to say, well, understand that their emotions are tied to what they're doing. So it's like if it's a relationship and you're saying like, oh, this is a bad relationship, you shouldn't be with them. Well, their emotions are tied with that person, and that's their basically what they're going to do is decide based on their emotions with that person and logically justify where they're in, no matter if it really is a bad relationship or not. And they're basically going to turn that defensiveness towards you now. And so more often than not, it's really ineffective to try and change somebody. Yeah. And what you'll find is like when you accuse them of something, sometimes they even justify their own position even more, and they become stronger in, doing the same thing over and over again. And so if you must do a situation where you're trying to correct somebody or tell them they got themselves where they are in life, do your best to guide them to come up with their own solutions and their own, guide them through questions you ask and their own realizations about themselves and what put them in that place and the actions they took that put them in that place and the patterns and habits. And it's just one of those things where you navigate in a way where you're just trying to understand them. And so that's really what your approach should be. So it's like, well, in my perception and my basically what I do with making these videos is I actually do call people out a lot on these videos. And, what I found is people like to observe the truth when it's about somebody else. But when you're basically directing that to them, they don't like that as much. um, so if we can just seek to understand the other person and then really ask questions to basically suggest what the person's doing wrong, in a way that's not like, oh, obviously suggests is like, well, if you just thought that, like, why didn't you think that, like almost a sarcastic tone. Eliminate that, make it towards like trying to understand them. That's your outcome. And then when you basically do that and can guide them to understanding, what you'll find is sometimes they begin to understand it themselves. What you can also do to not basically create resentment is talk about your own stories and your own struggles. Because it's like when people tell stories, what we naturally do is we relate that story we're hearing to our own situation. And so stories are really one of the most powerful tools that you have. And so it's like if you just tell them a story based on your own situation, then where that concluded in your own life and your own story, and then don't go any further. Don't say, and this relates to your situation, and that's what you need to do. You don't do that. You just basically tell them the story, and then people are just naturally kind of, if they really want to get out of the situation they're in, which intellectually is usually the case, but emotionally not, then they have a better chance of doing that.